Hello, welcome to Pick Six, our NFL show here on Brew Sports. I'm Tanner Burke. I am your host, your navigator, your tour guide on this magic carpet ride. But I am not venturing out on this journey by myself. I am alongside my good friend over here, Jay Ramadan. Jay, how are you today?
Great to be on, Tanner.
This is a pretty cool opportunity here. We have our own show together.
I know, ain't that fun?
Who would do that? Who would make that mistake?
No, I really have no idea.
Absolutely ridiculous. Well, obviously, we need to talk a little bit about ourselves and let the viewers at home figure out who the heck these buffoons are on camera and why they would give us our own microphones.
Buffoons. Yeah, I'd say so.
So, Jay, I guess I'll start. So, I'm from Buffalo.
I'm sorry
if you haven't figured it out already. I'm a big Bills fan. Okay, I'm totally biased. That's the blessing of being here, is we can be biased, but we can also look at everything from an analytical standpoint, which is what we're going to do. We're going to cover the entire NFL as a whole every Tuesday from 9 to 10, which will be great because we'll be able to review the week and whatnot. There's a lot going on in the NFL right now. But yeah, so I'm a Bills fan. I come from Buffalo, New York, living in Milwaukee, Wisconsin right now, so I can give you that opinion, which is obviously why I have this bad boy on right here.
Beautiful.
It's not because I fell walking into the building today, but old school football is out and gone, so we will throw that away as well. So, Jay, tell me about yourself here. What's going on in your world, my friend?
Well, Tanner, we're both suffering sports fans. I'm from 2 hours down the highway. Chicago.
Shot down. Shot City. Those Bears. How are those Bears doing?
Oh, the Bears. They're just awful.
They're awful.
They're terrible.
So you're from Chicago. Tell me about your career and what brings you here on our beautiful show, Pick Six.
You know, man, I love football. I'm John Gruden now.
You're John Gruden?
I'm John Gruden, man. I love the Y2 squiggle. The Y2 squiggle was my favorite play. No, I just, I love talking sports, and you guys here at Brew Sports said, hey, let's talk football. And I was like, yes.
Absolutely. And we're going to be talking football today. It's our first show, so we will be featuring a little bit of the Super Bowl review here. What happened? Did Tom Brady win the Super Bowl, or did Atlanta blow it? We will be talking about that. AP is in the news again, but it's not his fault. It's not for anything that he did. A columnist up in Green Bay said some things that he regretted that they ended up pulling his article offline. But, of course, the internet is eternal, so we still have access to it. So we'll be talking about that in a little bit. We will also have our correspondent Kyle Tait from Atlanta to talk about post-Super Bowl woes for the Falcons down there. So that'll be good as well. And our show is Pick Six. So every week we will have a fun segment to finish off the show called Pick Six, where we give you our power rankings, and since we obviously aren't in the season right now, we'll have some other fun ideas for you as well. So stay tuned. A lot of good stuff coming today. So the NFL, kind of in limbo right now.
Definitely.
But we're coming out of it a little bit. So we have the Combine going on, a lot of great players getting ready for the draft, a lot of teams and scouts picking and choosing, fine-tuning, feathering what their draft outlook is going to be like. So we will talk a little bit about that. Jay, is there anybody right now in this draft? It's a very talented draft. Is there anybody that you are looking at in particular that you would say, hey, no matter where you were drafted or where you were drafting from, is there somebody that you would say, I need this guy on my team? He stands out.
Right now, I am looking at Jonathan Allen, defensive tackle out of Alabama. And actually, some of you may say, the Bears already have a pretty solid defensive line. As of now, especially with Ryan Pace's mentality, best athlete available, Jonathan Allen has been just a force to be reckoned with. It's absolutely unstoppable. So that in Chicago, especially with our tradition of defense, especially under John Fox, I think would work absolutely phenomenal with him clogging the middle and Leonard Floyd rushing the outside. I mean, it's going to be a tough time for opposing offenses.
Absolutely. And from my perspective, I guess if I were the Bills, and I wanted to pick a player that any team would enjoy having, and not necessarily a surprise here, but if I'm the Bills, I'm looking to draft a quarterback. And the draft is always exciting when it comes to quarterbacks because you almost when you're watching each pick go by, you say, all right, when is the quarterback going to get chosen? If it's not somebody who's an Andrew Luck kind of guy who you know is going to get picked first overall, it's interesting to say, like, remember when Johnny Manziel got drafted?
Oh, my
people
goodness.
were thinking he was going to go in the top 10, and he slowly drifts down the draft and finally get into the 20s.
Yeah.
And
Cleveland traded up to go get him.
the look on his face when he got to like 22, 20, I mean, he was sweating, and like you could tell he was a little furious. But it is exciting to see where these quarterbacks are going to fall, and the Bills might have an opportunity to draft a quarterback, and I think they will need to. But I'm looking at Deshaun Watson. He's such an exciting character to think about with his credentials being a national champion, which is some great experience in itself, but as well as the double Heisman finalist, which is no easy feat to do. So
I mean, he's got 2 straight national championship appearances as well.
Is there anybody out there that you think is better from a quarterback standpoint than Deshaun Watson?
I mean, Watson has got some credentials. I'll give him that. In my opinion, though, I mean, the guy is skilled, no doubt. The guy is a phenomenal athlete. I just wonder whether he'll be a successful NFL quarterback because a lot of times those guys that love to scramble and love to run around really don't last that long in the NFL unless they learn pocket presence. For instance, Cam Newton made his living on being a big guy, being able to run and run over people. He spent a lot of last year injured. You look at people like Steve Young or Warren Moon where they could scramble and they made great plays scrambling, but they made their bread and butter plays from the pocket.
From the pocket. I think that's a good point. When you're talking about running quarterbacks, I mean, especially nowadays where the defensive players hit so hard.
Oh, yeah.
And injuries are becoming so common. When you have a running quarterback, you can't expect them to stick around for very long from a career standpoint. I mean, look at Colin Kaepernick. That's why he got drafted. He had one good season, and not that he's been injured, but we found out that he can't play in the pocket. RG3, he can't run anymore. He can't play he's not good in the pocket. Tyrod Taylor, we're still trying to figure that out too.
Sorry about that. All 3 of those guys made just the biggest splash when they first were drafted. Well, Tyrod Taylor, it took him a while. He was a backup for a while, but I actually lived on the East Coast at that time. I lived in Virginia, so I actually saw a lot of Tyrod Taylor.
At Virginia Tech?
Yeah. And so I was actually really happy when he got his chance at Buffalo. With Kaepernick, he basically kind of revolutionized the game for a couple of years because of him. Pistol formation is now a thing and a common thing, and teams now know how to counter against it. When Kaepernick first started that, I think it was Jim Harbaugh that implemented that. It was just the craziest thing. No one had ever seen an I formation out of the shotgun. So it's wild.
So we have, obviously, it being we're live on Facebook Live. We want to incorporate all of our fans out there who are watching. So that's going to be a big part of what we do and the things that we talk about. We have a structured show, but it's good to let the fans decide what they want to talk about. Now, I'll just point out, Aaron on Facebook says he's looking forward to our new show, and as am I. It's going to be a lot of fun to be able to do this every week with you and talk about the NFL and what is going on out there. So it's going to be a good time, but we're all about incorporating what the fans have to say. But there's always some crazy stuff going on in the world as well, in the sports world. So I think if you haven't heard, like I said before, AP is back in the news. And it's not Pete Doherty of the Green Bay Press Gazette wrote a column that is a little edgy, and I have a couple things to say about it. It's frustrating, but I will quote what he said right here. As for Peterson, society is changing fast and obviously for the better on many things, including disciplining children. I'm 55 and have friends about a generation older who say corporal punishment in school was routine. That's not that long ago. Let's also not forget that Peterson likely is descended from slaves who suffered savage disciplinary beatings generation after generation after generation. It excuses nothing, but also can't be ignored. This is learned. He did not hold back there.
Yeah, it's...
Needless to say, the article got pulled offline. Almost hard to find anything out there that shouldn't have been there in the first place. So let me just say, I honestly think that this whole Adrian Peterson thing is it's been beat to death. We don't need to talk about it anymore. It's not relevant. Let the man live out the rest of his career, which we all know is not something that most running backs can even get to. But I mean, it's frustrating because he paid his punishment. Michael Vick went to jail. He came back, and people rooted for him again. Like, they forgot. They just totally let it slide by. But the fact that Adrian Peterson is back in the news for what had happened 2 years ago now, mind you, it's absolutely ridiculous. 'Cause, I mean, he's now and moving on to a new team. I think we need to be talking about that. Quite frankly, I think it's more interesting. I don't need to hear about Adrian Peterson and the debate what happened with him and his son is. It's over with. It happened a long time ago.
I completely forgot that it happened. I mean, of course, a lot of us like to joke about the misfortunes of. I have no idea what prompted it. I mean, the man is, he's 30.
It came out of nowhere.
I would have said,
absolutely.
All right,
then there's a debate at that point.
Yeah, but
I'm sick of the debate.
I mean, there's not even much to be debated about.
No, it's old news. Adrian Peterson. I mean, I think whether or not I draft him for my fantasy team is more relevant than what happened 2 years ago with him and his son.
Absolutely.
I love drafting Adrian Peterson because this year is going to be the same. He's going to fall down the draft, but he has the potential to be an all-star. Now, last season, I drafted him, and it didn't. Howard, that was a mistake. I let JJ go. That was also a mistake.
Oh,
so
no.
It is frustrating, but we are going to have to go to a break, unfortunately. So we will be back with more right here on Brew Sports on the Pick 6. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hello, welcome back to the Pick 6, our NFL show here on Brew Sports. Cheers. I am joined by my friend here still, Jay Ramadan. We were just wrapping up our conversation about Adrian Peterson. He's in the media, of course, for many reasons right now. Some good, some bad, but not his fault. Pete Doherty of the Green Bay Press said a couple edgy comments about Adrian Peterson, which I think were totally irrelevant, uncalled for, and frankly unprofessional, which the article got pulled offline, so that has a little bit to say about that as well. But I'm curious, Jay.
Yep.
As are many people right now. It's a hot topic, and I'm just going to get rid of the past and look forward, just like Adrian Peterson is right now. Where is he going? Because the former Viking is going to end up somewhere. He's a fantastic player, and some team is going to get this all-star player.
As far-fetched as this may sound, some are actually saying he may stay with the Vikings.
Really?
Yeah. Because his salary, they just can't afford it. At this point, he's not exactly earning it. No disrespect to the all-time great, but he's been injured and suspended for the last, 2 or 3 seasons. The guy's getting old, as what happens with everybody. So there are some rumors saying that the Vikings may match Peterson's best offer. Because the man is he already 30 already?
31, I believe.
31,
yes.
So he's 31. That's usually the age when modern NFL running backs hit the wall. So they may match his contract. Another possible one I've been seeing is the Giants. So
yes, I did. I noticed that he has alluded his interest in the Giants. I really think, as we talk about where Adrian Peterson is going to go, he's not going to any team that's not going to have a chance to win a Super Bowl. He's at that point of his career where he says, hey, I've put it all on the line for this many years. I want to be with a team that's going to help me get a ring. Like, ultimately, that's as they always say, that's the ultimate goal. Like, what do you root for? What are you hoping for? The ultimate goal. They want the trophy. They want the ring that's going to sit on their nightstand when they go to bed. So
it's true.
The Giants are an interesting thought because they've always been, at least with Eli Manning, they've always been good. And I know he has 2 Super Bowls, but I don't think the Giants have ever really been great of the last 10 years or so, and to put Adrian Peterson in there, maybe that could put them over the hump. Maybe that could be something that could turn that around. But I think there's other teams out there, don't you, that might be a good fit, like maybe the Patriots, the Packers I've brought up a couple times, or even the Cowboys with Dak Prescott. They have Zeke down there.
Young Zeke.
But wouldn't Adrian Peterson be a nice compliment? You have a veteran guy, even you got your young running back in Ezekiel Elliott. And you got AP coming in, like the legend, to help the young gun kind of work his way in the league.
As far-fetched as this may sound, what if AP went to the Raiders?
Wow.
Who's the running back?
That's a game
Martavius
changer.
Murray. Yeah, Martavius
That's a game changer.
Murray, I think.
I think that would be wise.
Because
I think that's a wild card, but if that happened, you're playing in warm weather, which he's been playing in Minnesota for his entire career.
I mean, he's been domed except for
That's
the
true.
last
This is true.
3 or 4 years.
So you'd be playing in warm weather. You have a team that has some great young talent on both sides of the ball, on defense and on offense. And Derek Carr definitely goes under the radar a little bit, but he is by far one of the better quarterbacks in the league.
Definitely.
Obviously, he's not going to be on that elite status of Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, any of those. But he flies under the radar for as good as he is. And I think part of that has to be because he is in Oakland. But what's your opinion on Dak?
I liked it. What you say, Derek or
Dak? Sorry,
Dak. Sorry. Dak. We're having a conversation. A big conversation that's happening in Chicago right now is, will a young quarterback fix anything? And people say, oh, well, Dak, he's a 5th rounder, 4th rounder. But Dallas had already assembled the pieces together to make Dak successful. You got Jason Witten, you got a solid receiving core. You have, they already had Derek McFadden, who was a pretty decent running back, but Ezekiel Elliott really put him through the top, and their offensive line was just stacked. So his offense, really helped him out because the pieces were there, and Dak was just given the keys to the car, and they said don't wreck it.
Yeah.
And he did a great job,
And now he's driving the car.
He's driving the car very well,
Now,
he's signaling before turns. He's
signaling before turns.
He's not running red lights. He's stopping fully at stop signs. He's being a good driver.
He's monitoring the speed limit, but he is going above. He's going over the speed limit, but he's not going crazy. But what on the flip side? So yeah, you have Zeke who's complimenting Dak. Adrian Peterson could be a great compliment to Derek Carr.
Yeah,
what do you know?
And even to Latavius Murray, and because I think Latavius is more of a speedster. So with AP just going in between tackles and between the guards, it could be a good fit. But then again, there's always the talk of financials, and that's basically what the NFL is nowadays. Long gone are the days where you stayed with your team from draft to release or draft to retirement. Now it's, listen,
this guy's giving me 5
money
more over here. You know what I mean? Is money going to be a factor for AP, though, if he's looking to go to a team that's going to win a Super Bowl?
I have a feeling that if he's on a real contender, like let's say a New England or an Oakland, or who's contending on the NFC? Green Bay. I wouldn't say Green Bay because they got Lacey. They have decent running backs.
But even then,
I'd say because I always see him taking a little less. I'm sure he wouldn't take the veterans minimum, but he'd give him a little bit of a discount.
Right. I don't think he's worth top running back dollar right now.
No. Maybe 2010 Adrian Peterson. Absolutely.
You're definitely paying for a name though with Adrian Peterson.
Oh, absolutely.
You're not getting the potential Hall of Famer of Adrian Peterson. You're getting Adrian Peterson, who's going to help bring fans in. He's going to be a nice compliment to somebody who will be the starter because he's not going to be your starter. But it'll be nice to have him as a compliment to anything else that the team has to offer. So he'll be a good compliment to the fans and the team, the organization as a whole. But moving on from AP. We have a Super Bowl to talk about.
That we do.
It's our first show. It's prudent to talk about the Super Bowl. It wasn't the most exciting Super Bowl. Some people will say it was. It was pretty boring for about 3 quarters. And then the Patriots came back and had a phenomenal comeback and ended up winning in overtime. But I have a question. Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Is he the greatest quarterback of all time?
It's debatable.
It is debatable. That's why we're talking about it.
I know. There's just so many great quarterbacks. Granted, he has the most Super Bowl appearances. He's got the most rings. He's definitely top 5. I'll give him top 5 all time, but he's got to fight the likes of Otto Graham, Johnny Unitas. Otto Graham, I think, went to a championship, I would say, every year. His first, 10 years in the league.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys, whoever's watching, could check me on that and comment. But Otto Graham had quite the track record. Johnny Unitas, the father of the 2-minute drill. John Elway, with his own 5 Super Bowl appearances. And especially in the 80s, he took those teams to the Super Bowl by himself, which it showed in the results of those Super Bowls. So there are 3 right there that you can, that can contend with Tom Brady for all-time greats. I mean, that fifth spot is very variable. You could have Peyton Manning, who was basically an offensive coordinator. You can have, the list goes on and on and on.
It's funny you bring up Peyton Manning. That was a debate for, I think, their entire career, the Peyton Manning-Tom Brady rivalry. And while Peyton Manning was still in the league, my whole opinion was I always thought and liked the idea that Peyton Manning was a better quarterback than Tom Brady. What I've seen this past year after he missed 4 games and came out and at his age played better than he may have ever played his entire career and won another Super Bowl after being down, was it 28-9 going into the fourth quarter?
I've been 3
or
20,
9. Yeah, it's unbelievable what he did. And as a Bills fan, it hurts me to say Tom Brady may be the greatest quarterback of all time, but a lot of that, though, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Tom Brady, but Bill Belichick, despite anything that has happened in the past, right or wrong, he has Super Bowls, and he may be the greatest coach of all time. So when you have a tandem of possibly, arguably, the greatest coach and possibly, arguably, the greatest quarterback together for their entire careers, essentially, it's pretty hard to not be great.
But here's what puts Tom Brady over Peyton Manning, in my opinion. Tom Brady, if you look at his NFL, now we're actually in that time of the combine. Look at his combine stats; they were not impressive whatsoever. Look at his topless picture. All the players take their topless pictures, and Brady, he wasn't ripped by any means. The guy was a lanky, borderline out of shape kid out of Michigan, and the Patriots took him in the 7th round. 6th or 7th, was it 7th round?
I believe so.
Yes.
And he came in with a chip on his shoulder.
And
he didn't look like a quarterback.
No, he didn't.
When you look at the pictures, I would not draft that guy.
No, and so as he progressed throughout his career, he took over for Drew Bledsoe, and won 2 more Super Bowls after that. In 03 and 04, went to the Super Bowl in 07 with a perfect season. And actually, Tom Brady even said himself was he really focused on his mechanics and his health as he got older. If you look at the man's regimen, his lifestyle, I mean, the man doesn't have an enjoyable diet. I think he's on that kale and quinoa and, that health maniac stuff, but it pays off. I mean, the man, I'm a coach, I coach high school, and I tell them mechanics are everything. Tom Brady flies in his coach from San Mateo to look over his fundamentals, his footwork, his, the degree of his elbow, his follow-through, and the fact that he works on it constantly. When he says, I'm going to play till 45, I don't doubt the man a single bit.
Absolutely.
And that's what puts him over the top of Peyton Manning, in my personal opinion.
It hurt me as a Bills fan to know that Tom Brady may be in the league still for another 5 years. But on the flip side, there's another player on the Patriots that I am very curious about. And we have a couple more minutes left in this segment here, but I want to hear your opinion because I know we disagree a little bit. The Western New York native, tight end, Rob Gronkowski, he is a character and a half. He's a fireball, and I honestly feel he may be one of the greatest tight ends of all time, if not the best. And you had mentioned the injuries are a problem, but with all those injuries, he still has put up the numbers.
Again, I'm going to say debatable. And I like Gronk. I like him a lot. But the man has been in the league since, 2009? Mm-hmm. So he's got a long way to go before he could even be considered top 10, in my opinion, and especially with the numbers. Now, injuries, that's not something you really can control. I mean, Gronk isn't injured too much. Now, if you look at a case like the Bears, where they're constantly injured, that goes way deeper into, their training staff and regiments. But that's a different topic on its own. In terms of Gronk, granted he's had the injuries, but even when healthy, his numbers don't add up. What I told to you during the break was Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, and even Mike Ditka, only because I'm a loyal Bears fan.
Tight end's one of those unique positions where you can't judge solely on touchdown, receptions, those numbers. You do have to look at what they do around that. I mean, the tight end, to be versatile and be able to block, run block, pass block, go out and make a catch, there's a lot that goes into being a solid tight end. And we were talking about the greatest tight end of all time. It is hard, and I think it is debatable on all sides of the conversation. But going back to the Super Bowl, we're going to have some Super Bowl talk with our correspondent, Kyle Tait from Atlanta. So it'll be nice to get a perspective on what's going on down in Atlanta, what it's like for the fans, and how the team is looking moving forward, and maybe they can get revenge on Tom Brady in next year's Super Bowl. So
maybe.
We are going to take a break, and we will be back to talk some Super Bowl with Kyle Tait, our NFL correspondent down in Atlanta. So don't go away. I'm Tanner Burke, along with Jay Ramadan. This is Pick 6. All right, welcome back to Bruce Sports. You're watching the Pick 6 with Tanner Burke and Jay Ramadan. We're talking a little bit about the Super Bowl. We're not really sure if Tom Brady won the Super Bowl or if Atlanta blew it, but we have our correspondent down in Atlanta, Kyle Tait, on the line here with us. Kyle, how's it going down there?
It's going a little better. I told you guys off mic, we're slowly but surely getting through the 5 stages of grief. And you think I'm joking, but that was actually written on our radio station's whiteboard, the 5 stages of grief. I can't remember what they are. But we're slowly but surely getting through the acceptance stage at this point. So the whole city mourns with us, and it's been a tough past month, and the way the Super Bowl ended, it was hard to swallow.
I can imagine. Kyle Tait on the line from 92.9 The Game, the Falcons' flagship station down in Atlanta, and it is a pleasure to have you on because being a Buffalo fan, I know all about losing Super Bowls, and I know all about just basic disappointments in and of itself. How are the fans handling it from a football perspective? Because there was a lot of hype, and I was pulling for Atlanta, but it's tough when you have, especially a loss like that, being up 28 to 3 at one point, 28 to 9 going into the fourth quarter. It was just brutal to watch, and I could feel the hopes and dreams getting crushed of all the fans down there.
Yeah, there were 2 different reactions. I think the first reaction was just a punch to the stomach or a general depression setting in. And then the second reaction was, as fans do, they wanted to get angry and they wanted to point fingers. And it was either Kyle Shanahan or Dan Quinn or Matt Ryan. I think there's a little bit of blame to go around to all of them. But like you said at the outset of the interview, we're not really sure if Tom Brady won it. I mean, he certainly did a lot of great things, and he did Tom Brady things, especially considering he's 39 years old. What he did was remarkable to even come back with the door being opened by the Falcons. But the bottom line is Atlanta just didn't do what they needed to do. They didn't control what they could control. And so I think the biggest factor that comes into my mind late down the stretch after watching that fourth quarter over and over again and torturing myself, but I think the biggest factor is that the Falcons had 6 different snaps where the clock was running. And on those snaps in the last quarter, they snapped it with 12 seconds, 15 seconds, 19 seconds left on the play clock. And it didn't.
Oop, Kyle, are you there?
Might have lost
We
him.
may have lost Kyle. We'll try and get him back on the line. But, Jay, it's tough. I mean, the clock's running down. You're blowing the lead. Everybody in the entire country is hoping that you don't, but it's happening. Is that a conditioning thing even when you're that late in the game? You went so hard. The offense is just constantly putting points up on the board, and then you can't get the defense off the field in the second half?
That's actually a valid concern, and there were reporters that were asking about the Falcons conditioning, because the Patriots have been there 6 times before. And there were even talks of Tom Brady napping in the locker room leading up to Super Bowls 38 and 39. I swear, you look it up. Tom Brady was actually napping before the Super Bowl. So the Patriots know, because the Super Bowl is a very long game. It's not your average NFL game. You've got the longer halftime show. You've got more commercial breaks. So it takes more energy to be in the Super Bowl. And so with that high-tempo offense and that blitz-heavy defense, it's very possible that they could have run out of energy. I also give props to Kyle for actually watching the game tape over, because I have not watched Super Bowl 41 since that fateful day in 2007, and it still hurts.
It still hurts? That's insane. That's funny. But, yeah, I mean, what does Atlanta do now moving forward? I mean, they have a Super Bowl-ready team still. I mean, it's tough. It's almost like the Seattle Super Bowl when they decided, for some god-awful reason, it was a good idea to throw the ball when you have Marshawn Lynch, who's all hopped up on Skittles, ready to pound the ball into the end zone.
Hey,
I mean, what do you do now? You have a team that's ready, but, I mean, how do you improve even?
Well, it's easy to say that in that situation when you've got, the big boys on the line ready to stop Marshawn. Had he caught that touchdown, we would have been praising Pete Carroll to the roof for being a back-to-back champion. When it comes to Super Bowl hangovers, the Bears were definitely victims of this back in 2007 because we went from a 13-3 2006 to I think a 7-9 2007, and free agency takes a huge toll on on your team because of course you went to the Super Bowl, everybody wants a pay raise, and also teams that are looking to improve will vulture your players. So a matter of who's under contract, who needs to be re-signed, who's going to hold out. I remember we had Lance Briggs hold out for a couple of years because he wanted to have the same money as Brian Urlacher. And eventually he got it, but there was a point in time when Lance Briggs once said, I will not play a snap for Chicago ever again in my entire career. Thank goodness he did, but it's all about how the players and how free agency treat the Falcons, because for all we know, granted, they were 11-5 this year, but they could go 5-11 next year for all we know. Do you think it's possible? I know it's so hard to go back to back. But, the Bills did it 4 times in a row in the 90s, but we don't need to get into that because they didn't come out on top. Free agency was also different back then.
That's true. That's very true. The contract situations, the salary cap, everything, even the game itself was totally different. Is it possible? And I don't know if it is, at least anymore. Is it possible that Atlanta makes it back to the Super Bowl again next year?
With their current roster, as of now, free agency starts on either Tuesday or Thursday this upcoming week. So we'll see, who they sign, who they lose. We really can't say until, we see who their starters are come week 1 in September.
Absolutely. I think we have Kyle Tait back on the line with us. We lost him for a moment. Kyle, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. Sorry about that, guys. I need to invest in one of those newfangled landlines. The cell phones are just getting awful
Not
these
a problem.
days.
That's
back,
okay.
buddy.
I'm still on a flip phone, so
Hey,
sturdy things there. But now, Kyle, Jay and I were talking a little bit about the possibility of Atlanta. A, what do they have to do to get back to the Super Bowl? B, is it even possible? Because they are Super Bowl ready.
I think it's certainly possible. I think that Atlanta, in 98, the last time they made the Super Bowl, it was kind of a fluke thing. They had a lot of veterans. It wasn't really a team that was built to have an open window for long. Nobody expected them to be in it that year. This year, with what they showed, especially on offense, it was a remarkable season down here. And this team, the defense especially, is young. It's promising. I think the last 6 games, we really saw what the defense can do, especially once Dan Quinn took over the play calling from Richard Smith. Can this team make it back to the Super Bowl? Absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see how Steve Sarkisian comes in and how he fits in, because I think the system is going to have to revolve around Sark rather than the other way around. He's not going to be able to adapt the system to what he's doing. They're going to want to do a lot of the same things that Kyle Shanahan was doing. They're going to obviously want to lean heavily on Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, hit a lot of different targets, and it's something that – and obviously use the running backs out of the backfield as well to catch passes. That was something that both Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman did a great job of last year, and it's something I think you'll continue to see with Sarkisian.
I think having the running back team, the duo that you guys have down there, is such a nice compliment to the Julio Jones, Matt Ryan conversation. It really blends the whole team together in a nice way. But here's another question I have. I like Matt Ryan. I really do. Is he an elite quarterback? Because I think he can carry them to the Super Bowl, and I think he can help them win. But I don't know if I would put him in the elite category. What's the opinion on the fans and the media down there in Atlanta?
I think that Ryan's best years are ahead of him. He's certainly had some up and down seasons. It was just a year ago that people were calling for Matt Schaub instead of Matt Ryan. So, and that's how crazy the city of Atlanta is. I never thought that myself, because Ryan was certainly far and above, head and shoulders above where Schaub was. But anyway, it's with Ryan, I think that he has the potential to become elite, but a lot of quarterbacks don't actually start winning games and winning Super Bowls until after their 30th birthday. Ryan is only 31. He's got another 7 or 8 solid years in him. Look at what Tom Brady's doing at 39 years old, still winning Super Bowls. So I don't know that I would put Matt Ryan in the elite conversation yet, but he certainly has the tools to do it. Now he has the receivers around him and the system around him to do it. And like you said, the 2 backs out of the backfield with Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman, for them to be able to come out on a screenplay with the secondary pulling back to guard all the different weapons they have downfield. Not only Julio Jones, but Taylor Gabriel was a great addition this year, a guy that the Chiefs threw on the trash heap. Mohamed Sanu was a great pickup. Those three guys, he had 13 different receivers for touchdowns this year. That's unheard of in an NFL record. And so with all the different tools that he has, both coming out of the backfield and going downfield, I don't see how you couldn't put Matt Ryan in the elite status. I mean, with what he did this season, I certainly think if they can keep those pieces around him, he's going to force his way into that conversation in the next couple of years.
Absolutely. Now, Kyle, we have time for just one more question, and I'm curious, what are the Falcons doing looking ahead to the draft? Where are they looking to improve?
I think improving the defense is the biggest thing. It looks like Dwight Freeney might be on his way out. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent. He's going to try for a 16th or 17th season in the NFL, whatever it is for him. He's been around for ages. And he helped Vic Beasley a lot, obviously kind of learn the system. Beasley ended up leading the NFL in sacks this year with 15.5. Had a huge season. But improving the defense, especially the secondary, and then deciding who to re-sign. Right now you've got Desmond Trufant, who's coming up. Devontae Freeman's agent has put some pressure for whatever reason during Super Bowl week on a possible extension. So trying to figure his contract situation out with one more year on his rookie deal on the offensive side. So, but I think improving the defense is priority number one in the draft this year.
Absolutely. Kyle, unfortunately, our time for today will have to come to a close. I was glad that we were at least able to get you back on the line. So thank you very much for being on our very first show of the Pick Six. It's Kyle Tait, 92.9 The Game, the Falcons flagship station. Kyle, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll have a landline for you next time so we won't drop out.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure.
See you guys.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Lot to take in there.
Hey, what did I say? Free agents are a big deal. Actually, want to hear something pretty cool?
Yes. Do I ever? I always want to hear.
I went to junior high with Tevin Coleman.
No, you did not.
I did.
Stop it.
Swear.
So
I swear.
do you have a Tevin Coleman jersey? You have to have one, right?
No.
Unbelievable.
Things happen. We didn't go to high school together. I'm not going to claim to be a close friend of his, but yeah, I know a guy that.
I know a guy
that's Super Bowl. I know a guy.
I know a guy who's in the Super Bowl. So. Yeah. Funny story. I actually the Packers just re-signed Jacob Shum. Mm-hmm. He's a punter, obviously, for the Packers. Mm-hmm. He went to my high school in Buffalo, New York. So it's cool to be able to root for the Packers here in Wisconsin and be like, hey, that guy he's a Frontier High School alum. So, but yeah, so we have a couple more minutes here before we sign off. A lot to take in. It was a fantastic show, but. It's time for our Pick Six segment. Our show is called Pick Six, so we will have a segment each week where we pick something. I'm not quite sure what it's going to be yet, but during the season, this will be our time to do our power rankings of each week. But in the off season, we have the flexibility to have a little bit of fun with this. So today we are picking our quarterback destinations in the quarterback carousel that is the NFL at the moment. We have a couple quarterbacks that are kind of out there, up in the air at the moment. Tony Romo. Colin Kaepernick now, with the stuff that he's saying in the media, and Jay Cutler. Where are these guys going, Jay?
Well, so for Romo, somebody's going to pick Romo up. That guy's got, if you protect him, he's got at least 3 years left. I mean, he probably would have done great in Dallas this year had he not broken his back. The guy's got to know he can't scramble anymore, or else bad things happen.
It's very true.
The guy broke his back. He's got to stay in the pocket. So I see a place like Denver, if they fix their offensive line up, because Denver has experience with old quarterbacks. Peyton Manning was
definitely an old quarterback.
Well, he also came off his back surgery, so one bad hit could have ended his career. Yeah. There was a hit he took his Super Bowl year against Pittsburgh where I thought he was dead. I think a corner came off the blindside blitz and just hammered Peyton Manning. And I'm just like, oh, that's it.
He's done.
We'll have to get him in a wheelchair.
He came back and won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, he did. So, so I see Romo going to Denver or somewhere that'll protect him. Houston's also another viable option, seeing as it's not too far from his home in Denver. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, in Dallas, seeing as he's a family guy. The guy's in his 30s now.
Right.
Kaepernick is going to be an interesting one.
And it's relevant as of pretty much today. There were the last couple days, at least, where he said he is not going to stay in San Francisco.
Nope.
And he basically turned down like $16 million or something like that to say, I'm going to go play somewhere else where I'm going to be appreciated. is he even going to be? I mean, is anybody going to take a chance on a guy such high profile, possibly a liability like Colin Kaepernick?
Well, it's going to be a tough one. I mean, if he does get signed, I could see it as a backup. I could see it as maybe a 2-year, like a very team-friendly deal. Maybe a team desperate for a quarterback with NFL experience would take him. Maybe a Cleveland. Cleveland will take anything. Not Detroit anymore. They have Stafford now, but, not Cleveland. Detroit used to be that. So, I mean, the ball's in the air. Kaepernick just opted out, so it hasn't been long. And moving into Cutler, I mean, I've got plenty of Jay Cutler experience.
I know you do. That's what I was going to say. I don't know if he's worth picking up for any team.
The guy's a schlub.
Someone's going to do it, but it's like watching the same bag of groceries travel from plate to plate to plate, and then even after they're rotten and you should have thrown them out, somebody's going to be like, that's probably still good. It's only 2 weeks past its expiration date.
I have a saying. I say this to my players. I say, potential is like raw meat. If you don't use it, you don't cook it, it's going to go bad.
Wow.
Jay Cutler's potential
that was good.
is bad.
Did you come up with that?
Old coach of mine has said that.
That's
old saying.
All right.
But yeah, Jay Cutler is all potential. The man's probably got one of the strongest arms in the league. He's decently mobile.
He's got decent
mechanics.
Does not.
Well, his mechanics are kind of shaky. They improved under Adam Gase, who's now in Miami, which is some people say is a possible landing place as a backup. Personally, Cutler doesn't need football. Cutler's made a good amount of money playing, with the Bears, especially after Phil Emery gave him that 7-year extension that everybody was surprised to see him get when he was obviously outplayed in 2013 by Josh McCown. So Jay Cutler is also up in the air because he's the type of guy that doesn't really want to be a backup quarterback. He doesn't need football. He's got plenty of money. And reports are saying he's contemplating retirement. So if he had to choose a team, I could say Miami because he's got Adam Gase, and Adam Gase got the best of him. Ryan Tannehill's also coming off an injury, so there's a chance that Cuddy could come in and, be decent. But as of now, I mean, he is on the trade market, and nobody is biting. And I don't blame any of the 31 other teams.
You're the Bears
for not
fan. You would
biting.
know.
It's firsthand experience. It's firsthand misery.
I trust your word. Yeah.
I don't know, 12. I hopped off that bandwagon. He had so much potential, and after he killed so many offensive coordinators' careers, and it's enough is enough.
Aaron on Facebook says #Cleveland will take anything. And James says, yes, Cleveland. I could see Cleveland doing something as stupid as that.
Start that hashtag. Spread it. Hashtag will take it. Cleveland will take anything. Start
hashtag,
it.
Hashtag bring me the Cutler.
Bring me the Cutler.
Starting that right now, I guess. Hashtag bring me the Cutler. But Corey on Facebook says, I hope Jay Cutler stays in Chicago. He's good for the rest of the North.
Wow. You're not wrong.
Brutal.
I'm pretty sure he's thrown more touchdown passes to Green Bay Packers than he has the Chicago Bears
and the
in his time in Chicago.
But anyways, we're coming to the close of our show here. We will be back. We have a short week here. We'll be back on Tuesday. We'll be here on Brew Sports every Tuesday morning, bringing you all of the hottest and greatest topics in the NFL. And we like to keep it light, too. So, Jay, where can people find you on the social medias?
You can find me on the Twitter at JRamadan17. That's JAYRAMADAN 17.
Beautiful. That was really nice.
Thanks.
You really put some emotion behind it.
Gotta have some fun with things.
Should take me to dinner first before I follow you on Twitter.
Anything you can find me. Boy?
You can find me on Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, all of the above at Banner Turk, which is my name with the 2 letters switched. I know it's very creative, much like myself. So
it boats your float.
It boats my float. For Jay Ramadan, I'm Tanner Burke. Until next time, this is Pick 6 on Brew Sports.
Take it easy, everybody.
Have a great weekend.